Welcome to Order Militaris Radio TV. We are lifelong Catholics, and what we do here is all for free in love of Jesus Christ, and the Most Holy Trinity, and His Holy Church, and will defend our Holy Mother, the Church. Our work is a true sense of apostolate. Any funds raised goes back into this work for our equipment. This helps us to give you an unbiased, hard-hitting truth that is not controlled by political correctness or interest groups. Today's show is on the anniversary of the victory of the Battle of Khotyn. We welcome Brother Alexis to the show.
Thank you, AJ, for having me on Order Militaris Radio TV. And we celebrate two great battles today, which are like the foundations of Polish history, the Battle of Khotyn and the Battle on the Vistula at the end of the First World War, where the Poles rallied, and so that wonderful image of Our Lady in the sky appeared on their side and scared the Russians off. And so they won their victory against the Bolsheviks. And they prevented the Bolsheviks from conquering Europe, and that was back in 1919. And both battles on November 11th, which shows that St. Martin, patron of soldiers, is really close to the Polish people, and that they really have the grace to be warriors if they put their mind to it. So the Battle of Codeine, I don't think anyone in the English-speaking world's ever heard of this battle. So what year did it take place in, and where is Khotyn?
Let's see. Okay, it took place in 11th of November 1673. Khotyn was in part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, which is, it's now part of the Czech Republic, and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Moldova, Wallachia took part as allies, and the belligerents were the Ottoman Empire.
And all their allies in the Balkans. So they weren't just Turks, they were also all their subordinates in the Balkans. So the Polish, I mentioned, for those who don't know the little history, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was a Catholic state that united Poland and Lithuania in an elective monarchy. It was a constitutional monarchy, one of the first constitutional monarchies of Europe. And that was the great superpower of the 17th century, when the Pilgrims were still, growing corn on the slopes of Massachusetts shores. Poland was ruling an empire, and at that point, they really were stronger than even Russia, and they ruled most of Eastern Europe. So this was one of the great acts whereby the Polish people prevented the Islamic invasion of Eastern Europe and defeated them decisively. So who was the leader on the Polish side, and who was the leader on the Ottoman side?
Okay. Let's see. So it says that the leader was Jan Sobieski, and his dad was also there, Jakub Sobieski. Let me make sure. I'm making sure here. No, his dad was not there. Okay.
Sobieski was fighting in the name of his father, who was the king.
No. Jan was there. Let's see here. He was there fighting in the name of the current king, Michael Wisniewski, king of Poland, who died the day before the battle. And so after this great win, this is when Jan Sobieski becomes king of Poland after this victory.
Okay, so he wins the crown of Poland by his bravery in this battle. And the who was the leader on the other side? Is his name remembered in history?
Hussein Pasha.
Hussein Pasha. Okay. And How many troops did the Poles have? How many troops did the Ottomans have? Do we have any information on that?
The Polish had around 29,000 troops. The Ottomans had 35,000 troops. And to know how fierce the fighting was, that was done by the Polish side. Almost all but 15,000 of the Ottoman side was killed. 20,000 were killed.
So nearly every man in the Polish army killed at least one Ottoman that day. And do we know anything about the losses on the Polish side?
Only 2,000 were killed or wounded.
Wow. So the Poles really wiped out their enemies. Do we know anything about the battle, how it progressed? Did it begin the day before? How many hours it lasted? Things like that.
Yeah. Getting Okay, come on, translator, work. Okay. So, as the let's see here. So when the battle was beginning, the Turks and everybody were still arguing between themselves, and but the Polish and all the other Christian nations together were seeing as a hymn to Our Lady and getting ready for the battle. Let's see here. Come on, buddy. Where'd you?
So this is, while you're looking it up, I just want to make a comment. This is very unusual that they sang a hymn to Our Lady before the battle and dedicated their victory to Our Lady. And centuries later, in the same day, Our Lady would appear in the skies and drive the Bolsheviks away from Poland. Shows that Our Lady was perhaps, in a certain sort of sense, remembering that they had consecrated this victory to her. And this shows that Our Lady is not a pacifist, as many false Christians want her to appear. She actually does stand with the Catholic who takes up his sword to defend his people from invasion, either by Marxists or Muslims. And we should remember this, because this is one of the most common truths attacked in modern times, that Our Lady is a pacifist and she's not in favor of war. She's certainly totally in favor of defense of Christendom, even if we have to use the sword to do it.
So this is what was going on the Turk side. The Turks also did not stop the hostile actions. At that time, the day guard was sent by the funeral of Peter Polansky, who at that time, at the end of the campaign, inherited the monastery after Jan Ostrog. The Turkish detachment in the sight of this guard went to the gate guarded by Lumrisky. The guards of Polansky had already entered into a skirmish with him, when by virtue of the hetman's order, one comrade from Molosky's horse pretended to flee, let him know into the camp. The knighthood of the officials quickly and diligently began to strengthen the camp at the gates of Hodych, and Lumber. Infantry poured out earthen fortifications like a dam and dug them to all sides of the moat. The Turks rushed straight to the gates of the troops, shielded from gunfire, parks, hills. So they so they had a funeral for another leader, and so they went out and did the burial service. Then when they saw the Turks coming, they're like, "Oh yeah, we're ready for you." Led them towards the camp where it was already fortified, and let them in for their destruction.
So it shows the Catholic great devotion to bury the dead even in wartime, but also use a little prudence there to use it towards their advantage. But and now how the battle was it the battle ever in question? Was it like the Christians nearly won, or was it they just cut down the Ottomans because they were divided among themselves?
They cut them down with everything, but and and so it was never in question, even though the Turks and everybody had superior numbers over the Catholics. But this is how it really turned. To distract from the Cossacks' concentrated efforts of the Turks, Romanovsky's detachment, consisting of several banners and heavy cavalry, rushed to the enemy, who turned to the shameful flight, leaving the honorable prey of the Poles the main weapons. But the Poles, noticing that they are chained with iron chains to oak trees, themselves cut down the wheels and dropped the guns in a nearby abyss, so as not to give them to the Turks. It was not yet a final victory, but if the Poles had managed to use it, then 1 hour would have brought them more prey than all those 40 days, full of labors and dangers, for in pursuit of the Turks, who had fled to the part of their camp located above the Dnistrum. They seized tents full of utensils, many horses, mules, and various livestock. Already the Turkish camp, frightened by the sound of Christian weapons and military music, declared the name of Christ has already begun to irrigate the Turkish blood. When the Cossacks, together with the edging servants, were carried away by the shameful thirst for robbery, thus gave the enemy the opportunity to gather their strength. At the sight of the crowd rushing to their camp, the Turks in large number made an outing, killing and capturing the Cossacks, for whom later came up with a cruel torment. However, most Cossacks and servants escaped danger and returned to their own, burdened with prey. Hodvik on horseback was standing at the gate of this trench when the messenger rushed with news that the Cossacks with several Polish troops had already occupied Osman's camp, and not only reinforcements were missing for a complete victory, about which Kosanik asked both hitmans, but the sun was already approaching the west, and Hodjikevich did not allow to start the battle by night. So that because of the disgusting thirst for looting did not endanger the whole army. It must be assumed that in the minds of the great generals there is a special genius who gives them saving advice. Hetman, surrounded by the color of chivalry, wept deeply and looked up to the sky and said the following words: O Almighty Judge of human affairs, yours is power, your kingdom, your scolding. By your will, everything that is great on earth is done. Wars, defeats, victories, everything depends on you. You, by your own will, strengthen the weapons, make the weak heroes, humiliate the proud, elevate the humble, the informed, give courage. Where there is less reason to fear, you dispel the anxiety. And if I, the insignificant, ashes before your throne, dare you, dare you say so, play the fate of peoples, and now I humbly attribute to your divine majesty Those good news which come to me as a new proof of Providence' marvelous concern for my fatherland. The people will continue to do the same blessings, to break the savagery of the Gentiles and to elevate the glory of Christianity.
Great Catholic prayer there. So the Catholics had the day, and did this put an end to Turkish attack? Was this the last great Ottoman attack on Poland? Did this
Yeah.
put an end? After that, they didn't dare venture in Polish territory again.
Mm-mm.
This battle, 1673,
Yeah.
is just 10 years before the battle at the gates of Vienna. So this, the victory in this battle, Jan Sobieski's victory, makes him king of Poland and puts him in a situation to start preparing the country for further defenses. And his participation in the Battle of Vienna was significant, which broke the Ottoman power forever in the Balkans and started the entire Catholic reconquest of the Balkans and of Hungary, all the way down to Serbia, and eventually led to the liberation of even the Orthodox in the Balkans, who finished work in the 19th century by their three Balkan wars. Um, a great day for Polish history and for the Polish people, and it's something that we should remember here in the West, that while the colonists were settling the New World, Poland was defending Europe against the Ottomans, so that Western Europe could enjoy the prosperity that led to the colonization of the world. So people think Poland isn't involved in Western European history very intimately. This battle was crucial to that. And this is why Poland remains such a strong Catholic nation. It never was invaded by the Muslims, unlike many countries that were savaged by Islamic occupation in the Balkans, for example.
Yeah. So later today will be in about 56 minutes. We'll be trying to give you coverage of the Independence March in Poland. So hopefully it'll be shown on Twitter from our Robert Bomkowicz. I get it right?
Yeah, I think so. And as much as I know Polish.
So and hopefully he'll have his normal videos there and his speeches somehow. You know, if they say, "Oh, you got to do it a motor cart or moving vehicle," I was like, "Well, you know, there's trailers that hook to these vehicles, right?"
Yeah, they've done everything to shut down this march. This is part of the Masonic attack on Poland now. There are hordes of baby killing mobs going around the country protesting, violating all the controls against the pandemic without any punishment, throwing paint and oil on Catholic monuments and graves and churches, entering churches and committing sacrileges of all kinds, while the police are standing by and doing nothing, because the government, the law and order party, is allowing this to go on, because they're trying to get the Polish people in a situation of accepting abortion. The law and order party presented itself as being Catholic and traditional and conservative, but once they got power, they showed the Masonic face. They changed out their president. The new president, Duda, whose wife's a Jew, is now saying his big hordes of baby killers are invading the country and destroying the churches. But no, his biggest obligation is getting out the vaccine. That's the hope for Poland. Oh, by the way, he also wants to amend the law on abortion and allow abortion under certain conditions. So he's totally stabbing everyone in the back. And the fact that the mayor of Warsaw tried to shut down this independence march run by this brave and courageous Catholic, Robert Bomkowitz, shows that the entire Masonic machinery now is out to conquer Poland and destroy it from within. And Poles need to wake up. They need to get rid of the law and order party completely. It's Masonic, and they need to build a new Polish nationalist party. And you need men like Bomkowitz to do it, people who have guts, integrity, zeal, and above all, the love of their homeland as a Catholic nation. And the Law and Order Party clearly doesn't have it. Duda is a traitor to Poland. And it's a very sad day to see that his party is just completely flipped, closed down the churches in the spring, and is keeping up on this Bill Gates hype. He's obviously been bribed by Bill Gates and George Soros. It's obvious this guy has some bank account somewhere in his name from these people to sell out his country like that. But the next time Poland elects a prime minister, elect someone who's married a Polish gal, because if you love your country, you're going to marry a girl from your own country.
Yeah. So you can see why he's blocked me when I first was live tweeting what was going on with those baby killers and everything else, and like this is what I wrote. This man is a traitor to Poland. He wants to side with Bill Gates, the Masonic Lodge behind the vaccines that will alter your DNA. The man who should be president is Robert Bankowitz. Robert will save Poland and restore her. And I tagged Robert in that.
Yeah, we're just expressing our personal comments. This is not an endorsement of the order, and we're not promoting a political any activity in Poland, but we're just pointing out from a common sense point of view, you need the right man running a country, not a traitor.
Yep. So we'll be trying to do the little new feature I tried out yesterday. The Catholic political video will be redone because I was still a little upset about the news that night from Armenia. So try to do a more uplifting video for Catholic politics.
Okay, and I appreciate the work you're doing, AJ, to promote the Catholic Party in America. But you Catholics in the United States, you need to wake up and stop drinking the Masonic Kool-Aid. The Republican Party will never be a Christian party. It was actually proposed in the 19th century and they voted it down. They didn't even want a line in the Constitution that said America is a Christian country. That's how anti-Christian the Republican Party is. Don't believe the lies being put out by John Henry Weston that the Republican Party is now going to become Christian, and Trump has set the stage for that. It's a complete lie, and I don't know what kind of weed Weston is smoking, but he's not even a U.S. citizen. He's a Canadian citizen, so he should really butt out of the discussion and take it from two native-born American citizens, AJ and I. This is not ever going to happen. The Republican Party will always betray you, just like the Law and Order Party betrayed Poland. You have to have a Catholic Party that says right in the beginning, we are Catholic, okay? And that's not going to happen unless you form a Catholic Party. And so we invite all the Catholics in the United States, join the Catholic Party and start putting together a real party that will save the United States and not continue to destroy her like these two parties are doing with all their antics.
We could close out on this. This is from John Adams in forming the government. The wretched condition of this country, however, for 10 or 15 years past, has frequently reminded me of their principles and reasonings. They will convince any candid mind that there is no good government but what is Republican. He's even trashing what would become the Republicans.
Yeah, I'll point out and when John Adams uses the word Republican, he means one that's for the sake of the people. Okay, because republic means for the sake of the people in Latin. That's what republic means. So until you see that kind of politics, and who's going to give that kind of politics other than Christians? Because Christians love people. Masons hate people. There's that famous phrase from George Orwell: if you want an image of what the future will be like, he's talking about under the Masonic state, think of a boot stamping on the face of a human being for all eternity. Okay, and that is the rage of the Masonic Lodge, because the god of the Masonic Lodge is Satan, and Satan hates humanity because God became a man,
Mm-hmm.
and he hates women because God became a man in the womb of a
Mm-hmm.
virgin. So he hates that, and so the Masons actually, that's what they're up to. You're never going to have hope voting for these people, and your country will never be free of this evil influence until you have a Christian party. So if you're actually not voting for a Christian party, if you're not putting your hope in a Christian party, and if you're not working for a Christian party, then you don't believe in Jesus Christ. You're not practicing your faith. Okay, it
Mm-hmm.
just, that's the reality of it, and it has to be put in stark terms, because people have to wake up and realize that this isn't an option; it's an
Mm-hmm.
obligation.
Yep. So yeah, more of this on Polish and Catholic world politics. We get into that, and yeah. So I'm excited to know that we have a new feature we can use on Zoom to show you live images on here. So I'll be testing out before the show to make sure, see how it looks for two people. It looked good with one person. We'll see how it looks for two people and where they put our faces.
Yeah, I'll have to see, but maybe it works best on a live feed, one channel, you
Mm,
know. Okay.
so,
Thank you for having me on, AJ, for Order Militaris Radio TV. It's always a pleasure.
yep. This is Order Militaris Radio TV signing off. Deus Volt.
Deus Vult.